Disney has dropped the first two episodes of The Acolyte, and it's okay. Hi, I'm Tia, your content manager for Geek Vibes Nation, and this isn't so much of a review, but just kind of my thoughts on The Acolyte that just came out. But there will be spoilers. To break it down slightly, The Acolyte takes place 100 years before the rise of the Empire, which is a cool concept. Instead of going forward, why not go backwards? Casual fans of Star Wars really don't know much outside of the main movies and the Disney Plus shows, but Star Wars is a rich and vastly expansive world that has a huge sandbox to play in outside of the Skywalker saga. Now, in all transparency, I don't know much about the High Republic era that this show takes place within. My knowledge of Star Wars centers mostly around the prequel era. I love the prequel trilogy and the Clone Wars cartoon, as well as reading books that center around it. I have read a couple of old Republic books, and I generally find that era of Star Wars more fascinating than the High Republic, but I am still interested to learn more. So, just so you know, I am not a huge historian of Star Wars either, but I'm just saying that there are casual fans that just see the movies or the shows that are on Disney Plus, so their knowledge of Star Wars may not be as expansive as people who are really, really into it, such as reading all of the books, all of the comics, and all that stuff. Um, now I've made a few notes of the first two episodes of The Acolyte that I want to address. I saw a few people having an issue with this series because it takes place 100 years before the Phantom Menace, give or take, I guess a few years or something. In the movies, we're told the Sith haven't been around for 1,000 years, making Darth Maul's appearance very shocking. But fans should know that the Sith have lived in the shadows since Darth Bane's rule of two, just waiting for their chance to take revenge against the Jedi. I've also seen people who know this dislike that we see Sith who aren't perhaps part of the Darth Bane succession, and the fact that Jedi will be confronting said Sith, making what the Jedi said in The Phantom Menace untrue. However, we A, don't know if the Jedi of this show will all make it, B, if they'll cover it up and therefore future Jedi won't know about it, or C, there was a Sith line that doesn't adhere to the rule of two. Star Wars historians can shed more light on this, but it's my understanding that there were other Sith and Dark Force users out there. I do, however, wonder if we are going to see characters like Yoda. Yoda is about 900 years old and has been the head of the Jedi Council for a long while, so it stands to reason that we should at least get a name drop at some point in The Acolyte, right? Okay, some good things. I like Pip, and the costumes are very colorful. It was cool seeing a more modernized version of the Nemoidians, which for some reason really gave it a Star Wars prequel era feel. I like that I originally thought the mystery was going to be whether or not Osha committed the murders against the Jedi, but instead the mystery seems to be what happened to cause Osha's twin May to want to kill these Jedi. The biggest standout of the show is Soul. Lee Jung Jae is the best actor in the show, honestly. I saw somewhere that his favorite Star Wars character is Qui-Gon Jinn, and you can tell. Soul is definitely the Qui-Gon here, and I love it. Lee is doing a great job in portraying a compassionate and empathetic Jedi during a time where the Jedi are feeling a little sanctimonious, which is not out of character. This is the height of the Jedi, a time where peace is around, things are flourishing, and the idea of a Sith isn't even there. So it's not unheard of for characters like Yord and others would come off a little smug. Soul, however, embodies what I think a Jedi should be, like Qui-Gon, and in a little bit of ways like Obi-Wan. Side note, the best representation of what a Jedi should be, in my opinion, are people like Qui-Gon, Kenobi, and even Kanan Jarrus from Star Wars Rebels. Another side note, have you noticed that in this show, a lot of people have one syllable names? Soul, Yord, May. Some part of me wonders if it's difficult to come up with names in a sci-fi futuristic sandbox. I'm not saying I would do any better, and obviously there's lots of characters that don't have just one syllable names, but it's just something that I thought of. Let's talk about the bad. There were a lot of moments where the robotics and ship sets reminded me more of a 1960s Star Trek than modern day Disney funded Star Wars. The acting felt a little stiff by many, especially Charlie Barnett as Yord. Now, listen, I'm not trying to get on the guy because he doesn't know Star Wars. I don't think every actor should be a Star Wars historian. Does it help? Yes. It'd be great to get someone as knowledgeable of Star Wars as Sam Witwer, but I think as long as the actor commits to the script, they can succeed. And I think Barnett's performance was overcompensating for what the character is supposed to be. And episodes 1 and 2 were just a little boring. I will watch the rest of it because I love Star Wars, and it wasn't like the episodes were a chore. They just weren't that exciting. And while sometimes it can be forgiven because you need to build up to things, especially with a new era, your beginning episode should also hook people in. I can feel inspirations coming from many things. I see the show as taking inspiration from Jedi Fallen Order and even the upcoming game Outlaws. The biggest quote inspiration was a scene ripped right from the Clone Wars when Anakin was begging Ahsoka to come back with him after she was accused of a crime. You guys, if you watch the Clone Wars cartoon, know exactly what I'm talking about. Instead, though, in the Acolyte, the scene is between Osha and Sol, and while we know that there's history between them, it just doesn't feel as earned as that scene with Anakin and Ahsoka. But as I said before, I will watch the show further just to continue on with it. There's clearly a great mystery afoot that is happening. Not to get too deep into spoilers, but it was in episode 2 where May confronts another Jedi and essentially offers him either drink this poison that will kill you or go to the Jedi Council to confess what happened all those years ago. And the Jedi chooses to take the poison. In my mind, something bad really must have happened for this Jedi to make that type of decision. So it is a bit of a murder mystery, even though we do know that Osha and May are two different people. They are twins. And I had thought originally that the whole thing in the show would be, is it Osha who's committing the crimes, or is there another person who looks like Osha committing crimes? And now we know it's twins. So, I mean, you can say that sometimes the twin angle is a little bit of lazy writing, but I'm gonna continue watching it and just enjoy and all that. As I said before, again, I do wish that the sets looked a little better, and maybe some people are going to yell at me for that. But there was one moment where they're in a ship and it started rocking, and I literally felt like I was watching an old Star Trek show, which is not a diss towards Star Trek. I actually quite like Star Trek, but I will watch this. I do wish that we could have gotten things that were a little bit more in the prequel era or even old Republic era, but I know that the High Republic era has a lot of fans. People were really excited for this, and they are cool concepts. I do hope that we have some characters that we know of, such as Yoda and Plo Koon, who were both Jedi who are old enough to have been around during that time. So it would be really cool to see that. It is nice, though, to see an era that maybe we are unfamiliar with. The problem a lot of times with the sequel movies is not only that, in my opinion, I think they're not great movies, but we also hold them to a standard because they're part of the Skywalker saga and there's certain expectations that are happening. With this, it's not part of the Skywalker saga. It's 100 years before the Phantom Menace, so it's a lot that you can play with. This is not a huge spoiler review or even a huge review. I just wanted to come on and give some thoughts. I'd love to know what you think. Are you invested in this show? Do you think it's not as bad as people are saying it is? Are you disappointed with it? And like me, do you feel that Star Wars is at its best when it's actually animated? I know a lot of people really hate Disney Star Wars. You got to remember, we got the last season of the Clone Wars, Rebels, and Bad Batch, and Tales of the Jedi, and Tales of the Empire, which were all very valid, great shows under the Disney Star Wars umbrella. So just food for thought there. In the meantime, my name is Tia, your content manager for Geek Vibes Nation. Please let me know what you think. If you are not subscribed, please subscribe. And until next time, guys, I will see you later. Bye.